So believe it or not, guys and gals, there are a lot of cars out there that we actually haven't seen, and that's surprising because we host a lot of events and we've been to a lot of motorsport events and all sorts of automotive stuff. So it's interesting to really think about it and realize how much is out there that you haven't experienced. And some of it is just the really weird and obscure, but also a lot of it is cars that we never actually saw in this market. And even when you travel, you may not actually run into them. So for me, though, there are two cars that really stand out, and oddly enough, they're like at the top of my list of favorite cars too, which is interesting. Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale, up there always in those like top 10, top 5 lists of the most beautiful cars ever made. Scott Leone designed car, gnarly lines, and the way that car flows together is just mind-boggling. And I'm curious to see when I see one, I will see one, if it actually stacks up, because you have these ideas of it and you see it in pictures and everything, you study it, but like a lot of cars look different in person, sometimes better, sometimes worse. So I can't imagine it's really bad. I mean, it's pretty stunning. Also, the Sauber C9. Sauber C9 is one of my favorite race cars ever made. Late 80s Group C race car, and it's just so badass. I mean, look it up if you're not familiar with it. Really simple and understated, but just so aggressive and fucking serious looking. It's so sick. And like at the time, it's a Mercedes. It ran a Mercedes power plant rather. So it had the silver Mercedes paint on it with like fluorescent colored mirrors. They were either orange or yellow. So sick. So those two cars I absolutely want to see in person. And I was trying to think of like something more not mundane, but more pedestrian and accessible, I guess I should say, and attainable. And because, we love it all. And the one car that popped up was the Ford Escort XR3. And always love those things, super rad little cars. But then I realized that I actually have seen one. I saw one in London a couple years ago or a year ago. And it was as rad as I imagined it would be. So it's just super basic little sporty machine, and it looks rad with the inset little rally lights, the fog lights. And so that's a cool ass car. Lastly, one other car that I still haven't seen in person I absolutely want to see is a Tucker Torpedo. As a kid, like in high school, you see this movie, or a lot of us did at least, like in whatever, in economics or in business class or some shit, and you see the Tucker documentary or whatever. But like, it's just such an amazing car, and it was so ahead of its time, and they're just super cool. I mean, like, I don't even know where to start, but the technology that went into that car, at least of the time, right, whether it be mechanical or not, like, it just so creative and so genius. So just would love to see one in person. I mean, they just have such an insane presence, and they're so unique in their design. So those are some cars for you. Take it or leave it.
All right, I thought about this one for a long time, and I wasn't coming up with anything. I thought I was going to come on here and just say, I can't think of anything. But I was thinking about the wrong things. I was thinking about cars that, production cars and stuff like that. And I feel like I've seen a lot of cool stuff and stuff that I really love. Like most of the cars that I love, I've seen. But it finally hit me that I was thinking and looking in the wrong places. I was looking at factory cars. I need to look at more kind of modified one-off things. So the car that came to mind is a car that I've talked about before, and that is a Porsche 928 test mule from, 75, 6, something like that, before the 928 came out. And it was a factory Porsche test mule for the Porsche 928. So 928 chassis, running gear, everything, with a Volkswagen Rabbit body slapped on top of it. I don't know how they made it work. I'm sure they widened it. I don't know if they widened it from the center or fenders or how they did it, but I would love to see that car. And that's also a car that would be super cool to own and drive, and be pretty rad to have a rear wheel drive Rabbit with a front mounted V8 and a rear transaxle. So that's my choice, a 928 test mule with a Rabbit body on it. Later.
All right, for this question, it makes sense to me to answer with something that was either built in a faraway land that never made it to the U.S., so therefore is rare for us to see, or was special because it was kind of handmade, or one-off, or maybe it was a special race car. My answer is the Gordon Murray design T.25. So it was this little car that had all these innovative manufacturing techniques and assembly techniques, and was supposed to be super economical. And I just like stuff like that. It's designed to be low budget, and people's car stuff. I'm into that. And then anything Gordon Murray does too. So, I'm a little self-conscious because a question like this, it's like, what kind of like obscure thing can you think of that's going to make you sound like you know something about cars? But that was a fun one to remember. And seeing a car, like whatever, you just see a car sitting there. What fun is that? But when it comes to like something special, the way the parts they use or how it's assembled, you kind of need something that's like a unique build like that to really get any value of just looking at a car, rather than driving it. Some runners up along the same lines, the Myers Manx, the first, I think it's the one that Bruce Myers would drive around to shows, the Myers Manx 01 or something. It's a red one with the steel wheels, and he had like these weird tanks on the side. I just love what he did with the whole Myers Manx thing, and to see the first one, totally true to what he was thinking, it'd be just kind of cool to look at the details, and I think he would take that out to shows and everything. I feel like there was one other runner-up, but I don't know, that was a hard question. All right, T25, Gordon Murray. Bye-bye.
What's up, Warren here. What car do I want to see in person that I haven't seen before? This is actually a tougher question than I thought it would be. I think it's just because I've been really fortunate enough to be around a lot of cool cars and been to many car shows, races, and auctions and museums. So not a lot left that I'm dying to see, but two things came to mind. One is the Bugatti Royale. I have seen one before, but I was too young to really appreciate it, and I would love to see one now. But more specifically, the Cabriolet version of the Royale. So Weinberger, I think, was the coach builder. 1931 Bugatti Royale, kind of the height of 30s opulence and ridiculousness. So massive two-door Cabriolet, really low roofline, Cruella de Vil, sinister car. So I would love to see that in person. The other car that comes to mind is a Mercedes-Benz 600 Coupe, or two-door, one-off car they made. So the big late 50s, early 60s 600 Mercedes, but this is a two-door. I imagine they just chopped it, but looks pretty cool. I don't even know if the car still exists, so I guess I'd have to check that out. The Bugatti, though, is still at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, so have to check that out someday. And the last is a group of cars, and that would be a private tour at the Sultan of Brunei. His car collection is insane, and a lot of one-off cars that I kind of was just blown away by as a kid, magazines and such. So, Ferrari station wagons and custom Rolls-Royce bodied things and Bentleys and stuff. So that would be really, really cool. Very Radwood for sure. So that's kind of what I came up with. And this answer could change at any moment. So anyhow, hope that answers the question, and we'll see you next time.